Photoshop. We're back with Jim Bob. We've talked about selection tools. We've talked about getting the palette set up. Let's just point out a couple other little tools that you are already familiar with. Healing brush. Much like in Pixlr. By the way, what I'm doing right now is hitting the square bracket key on my keyboard to increase or decrease the size of the brush as opposed to go over there. So if I'm on here, whoops, oh, option define. So it's like a clone stamp, except it's using the properties from one spot into another. Healing brush is there. The spot healing brush is probably similar to the one that we did in Pixlr. Let's increase the brush size. And around this, it may or may not work. Yep, so I did a pretty good job filling it in or healing it. That's pretty darn cool. Let's hit the history brush and go back a little bit. In Photoshop, you can go back 50 steps or more. In Pixlr, it was 10. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go here. And, oops, not there. Can't see that. It brought up this other guy, which I don't want. I'm going to increase the amount of steps we can go back. I go into performance, and I can't remember where it is. Somewhere around here. There's a history, number of history step. So let's just pull this up. This takes a bit more memory, but we can go back a bit further. Okay, that one you're familiar with. These other ones down here get a little more complicated. What's this guy? Brush tool. Brushes, the good thing with Photoshop, there are tons and tons and tons of brushes that you can use. They've changed this setup too. General brushes. These are what they look like. They have various ones. Let's pick something that's a bit funkier. Let's pick this guy. And the color. Let's pick a color for our brush, which is showing here. And it's not working. Because I'm on the wrong tool. So it happens to everybody, right? I was on the erasing tool. So brush, and you can spend all day looking at different types of brushes. There's all kinds of them in here. And you can even add more. Import brushes, so you can get brushes online, bring them in. I wonder what that will do. I wonder if I'm just curious if I brought in a folder of legacy brushes there. Those are the ones I'm familiar with. Yeah, so there's more and more things you learn every day. So you can get all kinds of brushes in there. Cone stamp you're familiar with. The cool thing with clone stamp, you need to hit the option key to get a source. And then let's make that brush size bigger. Let's use the square brackets again. So hold the option, get a source, and you can clone an exact replica. We're going to leave the history brush and art brush for now. We saw that before. Notice that the paint bucket and the gradient tools from Pixlr are in the same spot. Blur, sharpen, smudge. If you remember this from Pixlr when you were messing up your heads, perhaps. Again, change the strength, change the settings. Every tool has some options here. Dodge and burn. If you remember, this makes things lighter and darker. This is getting slightly darker because the exposure is not that high, but if you crank this up, get things darker. So dark and light, and the sponge tool is the saturation, or the amount of the color. In this case it's desaturating, we want to saturate. So it will slowly it's harder to see there. We're working it up. Bring up the color. Pen tool is great for making selections. Photoshop's making it easier not to use the pen tool. We'll just leave that for now. That's kind of a little bit more advanced. Text box is text box. You can do different types of text and different shapes you can bring in. And I think that's enough. Some of the other tools are less used. So these are some of the mid-range. What's this guy? Oh, to make a placeholder for images. Yeah, I haven't used that a lot, to be honest. And since I forgot this one, the crop tool is the crop tool in any application. It will delete the pixels if you hit enter. So now the rest of that picture is gone. And that brings us to the end of some of the other tools in Photoshop. Next up, we'll talk about some of these guys over here.